Can you beat Pokemon Scarlet and Violet with only shiny Pokemon? That's the question I asked myself when I decided to start this challenge. Going into this, I was super excited, but also a bit nervous about how much work and how difficult this would be. I'd never attempted a run like this before in any Pokemon game. And with the improved shiny odds in Scarlet and Violet, I figured this was the best time ever to try a run like this. The rules were simple. I was only allowed to catch and battle with shiny Pokemon. Also, no trading. All Pokemon had to be caught in-game on the new file. I would also not be able to use the shiny charm or shining power sandwiches to catch shinies. And finally, just for fun, I wanted to challenge myself to catch 6 shiny Pokemon to have a full team before I challenged the Elite Four. The only exception to these rules would be my starter Pokemon, because in Scarlet and Violet, starter Pokemon are shiny locked. I would use Sprigatito to complete the tutorial and to find and catch my first shiny Pokemon, at which point Sprigatito would be released and progress would only be made on the 3 main storylines with shiny Pokemon. At first, I was a bit worried that Nemona was going to force me into catching a non-shiny Lechonk as part of the tutorial, so I messed around with a glitch to see if I could get past the cutscene without having to face Nemona. This didn't work out so well, but it ended up not mattering anyways, because I found out that if you kill the Lechonk, Nemona will just give you tips on how to catch Pokemon and let you go anyways. Next, I decided on the area I would use to hunt for my first shiny. I chose to hunt along this river that's right past the lighthouse. This area had Pokemon like Floatzel, Psyduck, Azurill, Wingull, and Magikarp. I really wanted a nice water Pokemon to kick off my team, and I knew that all of these Pokemon had shiny forms that were very distinct from their original. But after about an hour of shiny hunting on foot, I decided to complete the rest of the tutorial and unlock Miraidon's bike form to make things much quicker. I kept my eyes absolutely peeled, hunting for any one of these shinies going up and down the river. I had no idea how long this would take considering I was hunting at full odds, but after about 2 hours, this happened. Suddenly, like a lightning strike, I was staring at my first shiny. This tiny green Azurill was so cute, and it completely blended into the grass. I was so glad that I was paying close attention, or else I definitely would have missed it. So I threw a ball and the battle began. I threw a single Pokeball and captured it instantly. It was almost as if this Azurill wanted to join me on this grand new adventure. But with this exciting new face joining the team, this also meant it was time to sacrifice the unholy, non-shiny Sprigatito forever. And so he was released, never to be seen again on this run. I named the Azurill Tibby, and feeling unbeatable, I went out venturing, fighting every trainer I could with her. Tibby took out all of the trainers surrounding Los Patos with relative ease. But once I made my way over to Area 3 next, it became apparent that level 8 was not going to cut it. I got repeatedly destroyed by multiple trainers. But after a bit of grinding against the wild Pokemon and then the trainers, I decided to go up against Cloth, the Stone Titan. Tibby did pretty well, with Bubble Beam being a super effective move, but ultimately she was a bit too squishy and just couldn't take the hard hits. But after leveling up a few more times and giving Tibby a Shell Bell, I was able to pull off the win, just barely. I continued fighting trainers as I made my way over to Artisan City, and suddenly I found Tibby evolving. Man, they grow up so fast, don't they? Next up was Gym Leader Brassius. Naturally, I was a bit worried going up against a grass-type gym leader with a water Pokemon. All of his Pokemon had super effective moves against Tibby. But there was a small inkling of hope with Tibby's new learned move, Bounce, which is flying type. With Bounce, I was able to take out his Petalil, but his smallest Razor Leaf proved to be too much, and I lost. But after cramming as many experience candies down Tibby's throat as I could, she evolved again. I quickly rematched Brassius, and in a very close match, I came down to 1 PP on bounce. If it missed, I would have lost, but thankfully I clutched out the win with only 5 HP to spare. With my first badge down, I made my way over to Area 2. I went up against a lot of trainers around, and saw tons of wild Pokemon, but not a shiny in sight. Then, I went up against Gym Leader Katie. Bounce was also super effective against her Bug-type Pokemon. And because at this point, Tibby was about 5 levels over all of her Pokemon, I was able to one-shot every single one of them, and secure the win of the second badge. I continued exploring and pulled off this very precise maneuver in order to cross a river. It took quite a bit of skill, but I was able to make my way over to the area near Lavencia City. I then went for another trick known as the backwards long jump, but oh no, why is the game like this? Next, I decided to go up against the Worm Titan, but Tibby did not have any super effective moves against him. With only 1 Pokemon, this battle was rough, and it finally clicked that I really needed a second team member. So, while I continued exploring and battling trainers, I kept on a careful watch for any shiny Pokemon. And not long after my battle with the Titan, this happened. Did you catch it? I bet you thought it was the Vroom, didn't you? A little blue piece of coal. Roly-Poly was one of those new Pokemon that didn't initially impress me the first time I saw it. But I have to say, it's grown on me, and especially its later evolutions. Running into a shiny like this when you're not expecting it at all is always a super exciting feeling. And just like with Tibby, I threw a single Pokeball and caught it instantly, almost as if it wanted to be a part of the shiny team. I named her Cola, and with a Pokemon that could now learn fire and rock type moves, I was able to cover way more matchups than before. And after only a few trainer battles, Cola already was evolving. I really loved the blue and black colors together. So I decided to rematch the Worm, and somehow, Cola ended up with a glitched white tattoo on her butt. Thankfully, with Cola's Flame Body ability and Incinerate, we were able to take out the Worm no problem. And somehow the butt tattoo disappeared after the battle. With my new ability to jump high, I continued exploring until I found this. At first, I thought it was an oversized M&M, but then I quickly realized it was the horrifying face of the corpse of an earthworm. Well, that's gonna give me nightmares. Gym Leader Iono was up next, and with 2 shiny Pokemon in my team, I went into this battle filled with confidence. Cola was able to one-shot Wattrell with Ancient Power, and almost took out Bellibolt before fainting. From there, I terastallized Tibby, and with a few play roughs, I was able to finish off the rest of her Pokemon. Before I hit Gym 4, I really wanted to add another shiny Pokemon to my team. I noticed a Skiddo mass outbreak on the map, but it was up on a high cliff, so I had to backwards long jump to reach it. There's a shiny hunting method in Scarlet and Violet, where if you go to a mass outbreak and take out 60 of the Pokemon from the outbreak, your chances of finding a shiny will be doubled. So I made my way around, mass murdering goats until I reached 60. I then went back and forth for over 3 hours, until finally, this happened. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't find a single shiny at all. So I decided to give myself a break and take out some Team Star bases. But there was one major problem with that. Oh boy. So instead, I decided to take out the Bombardier Titan, which was pretty easy, and Iron Treads, where Cola somehow got a whole new butt tattoo, this time with random letters all over her. Tibby was able to clutch it out, and we got the win. This time, Cola's tattoo stayed even after the battle. After this, I decided to head towards the last Titan, Dondozo. I began making my way across the desert and collecting items, when all of the sudden, I couldn't believe my eyes. A shiny Rellor with a golden ball was right in front of me. I had just gotten out of the Titan battle, and there it was. Rellor is one of my absolute favorite new Pokemon, and I was so excited to find this, especially with such a cool shiny form. I was legitimately getting so lucky with these shinies. So I started up the battle with it, and somehow, once again, Cola's tattoos had disappeared. Unlike my last two encounters with the shinies, this Pokemon did not want to be caught, and refused any ball I threw at it. It kept breaking out again and again, and I was starting to get worried that it might take out both my Pokemon. Eventually, I decided it was worth it to risk a Bubble Beam, which paid off because it took her to half health. And finally, I caught her. What a cute little beetle. I now had 3 shinies, halfway through a full team. I was feeling great, and I went straight into the next Titan fight. I don't remember having any trouble with this fight on my first playthrough, but apparently I was severely underleveled for this fight because I got destroyed. As much as I loved the new Rellor, which I named Richie, she was proving to be the weakest member of my team, so I decided to get to work and start leveling up against all the trainers that I could. With a new outfit, I was feeling fresh for my fight against Kofu. Richie got taken out in just a couple of hits, but thankfully, Tibby was able to clutch it out once again with a lot of play roughs. I now had my 4th badge secured. And then, after the battle, Cola evolved, finally. I really love the look of her final evolution, especially the shiny. I decided to keep up the momentum and headed straight over to Larry's gym. This turned out to be one of the most difficult battles yet for me. I made some big mistakes early on, like having Richie use Rollout against Larry's Dunsparce. The Dunsparce also had Drill Run, which was super effective against Cola and could take her out in just a few hits. It ended up becoming a pretty messy battle, with a lot of revives and super potions. But somehow, by the skin of my teeth, Tibby was able to take Staraptor out with only 7 HP left. With that victory, I decided to go on an all-out rampage against the Team Star bases. Most of them were super easy since I had neglected them for so long, and the battles weren't all that entertaining, so I'm going to skip over most of that. The Alfornata gym was one of the only things I hadn't done in the south area yet. So I made my way there and immediately took Richie on a long walk. I gave her the birds and the bees talk, and this loss of innocence allowed her to finally mature and evolve. Wow, the golden beetle looks so cool, I just can't even. So, with high hopes, I faced off against the sidekick gym leader Tulip. This was finally Richie's time to shine, with Lunge being a super effective bug type move against Psychic. But Gardevoir ended up becoming a major issue. She finished off both Tibby and Richie with Dazzling Gleam, and I lost. This loss, however, ended up being a great motivator for hunting another shiny Pokemon. I knew I needed another team member in order to defeat Tulip. So, when I saw a Swablu outbreak pop up on the map, I went there immediately. I hunted here for about 3 hours before something very unexpected happened. When I saw this shiny Rufflet, I freaked out. Rufflet is one of the hardest shinies to spot because its brown body color is only a slightly different color than the usual blue. He was so happy to see me, in fact, that he ran right into me and started the battle himself. This was so exciting, because it was not at all the Pokemon I was hunting for. Previously, on my main file, I had actually tried to hunt shiny Rufflet before and was unsuccessful, so this was a really amazing moment. He put up a pretty good fight, but eventually I was able to catch him. I named him Murica because I knew his evolution had a beautiful red, white, and blue color. The only issue was Murica was about 20 levels under the rest of my team. So I gave him a lucky egg to hold and flew straight to Alfornada to start battling trainers and level up. I defeated this trainer right here and then went looking for some more trainers around Alfornada. But there was nothing that could prepare me for what was about to happen. I could not believe what I was seeing. I literally jumped out of my chair and was freaking out. There it was, a shiny Meditite. Literally 2 shinies caught back to back at full odds. I started the battle and was still in complete shock. I honestly didn't think I'd be finding another team member until I'd passed the next 2 gyms. I threw a quick ball and caught her instantly. I named her Lucky Lucy because she was my luckiest find yet. But despite how amazing this find was, Lucky Lucy didn't have the best stats. She was a little bit weak and was not very good at being able to take a hit. But I got to training and in no time she was already evolving. What an amazing shiny. I've honestly never had a shiny Medicham in any Pokemon game before. So I now felt more ready than ever for a rematch against Tulip. I gave Richie a rocky helmet to deal extra damage, and this time she truly was the MVP, taking out both Gardevoir and Florges, with Sludge Bomb and Lunge both being super effective moves. Now with 5 shinies, my team was nearly complete. There was only room for one more Pokemon, and I had no idea who it was going to be. But I came back to Dodonzo for a rematch, and this time I stomped him so hard that Tibby was the only Pokemon I needed to use. I kept a careful lookout for the shiny Pokemon that would be the final member of my team, but the results were shaky at best. So I just continued battling trainers and collecting items. Wait, does that lady have Naruto eyes? But the next thing I knew, I was battling Rhyme for my 7th gym badge. This gym was a double battle, which was a very fun change of pace. But in all honesty, I had defeated all the Titans and most of the team's star bases, so I was quite overleveled for this battle. My Pokemon made easy work of hers, and just like that, I was on to my final gym. Grusha had Ice-type Pokemon, and luckily for me, almost all of my Pokemon had super effective moves against Ice. I did a lot of switching this battle, which paid off. I was able to one-shot Frostmoth, Beartic, and Satitan. And finally, Tibby took Alteria's Ice Beams like a champ, and was able to pull out the W. Now there was only one thing left to do before I hit the Elite Four. I needed to find one more shiny Pokemon in order to complete my team. I continued exploring and checking high and low, everywhere I could possibly think to find a shiny. And then suddenly and very unexpectedly, I happened upon something. That was no regular Ice Cube head. That was a pink Ice Cube head. Ice Cube is such a funny Pokemon, and the purple shiny form looks amazing. I wasn't even hunting for it specifically, but it just came to me, wanting to join my team. So as any good trainer would, I gave it exactly what it wanted. This was the culmination of everything I had been working for. When I started this run, there was no way I thought I would be this lucky. If you were to add up all the hours I specifically spent shiny hunting during this run, it would probably only be 9 hours. And besides Tibby, none of the shinies that I caught were the ones I was expecting. But to be honest, that's what I loved. I never knew what I was going to get, and this allowed me to play through the game with Pokemon I hardly even touched in my first playthrough. I literally couldn't have asked for a better team of shiny Pokemon, and I think, all in all, everything turned out very well as far as shiny hunting goes. I named my purple penguin Popsicle, and I went up against a few trainers to level her up and try out her moves. Then I fed Murica a few experience candies so that he could be his final evolution for the Elite Four. And wow, isn't Shiny Braviary stunning? My little family of shinies were finally all together, and to celebrate, we had a picnic and played a quick game of soccer right outside of the Elite Four. I remember the Elite Four being so easy on my first playthrough, but this time, without a Skeledridge that had Torch Song, I couldn't just sweep all of the other trainers' Pokemon. Rika was up first, and wait, is that Whiscash Tiny? Anyway, she wasn't that bad, but I did fall for a couple of silly gimmicks like this. The real demon of this run was Poppy. She boasts a team of Steel-type Pokemon, and let's just say my team was not well prepared for Steel types. Cola was the only one who did have moves to deal effectively with them, but because she was so slow, she usually got one-shotted before she could ever even throw out a move. Not only that, but Poppy had Tinkaton, which had Tinkaton Hammer. Most of my Pokemon could be outsped by Tinkaton, and they just could not take these very hard hits. Even on the turns when Gigaton Hammer was on cooldown, Tinkaton usually had a move that was super effective against any of my Pokemon. So, after losing twice to Poppy, I knew I had to shake things up. As much as I love my shiny team, some of their stats were not the best, so I bought some bottle caps and went to start hyper-training them. I could only afford to hyper-train 3 or 4 stats of each member of my team, but I went for the ones I thought were essential, and that would have to do for my next Elite Four fight. And as it turned out, this would be extremely helpful in my battle against Poppy. My Pokemon were able to take more hits with the boosted defense stats, and with a lot of my Pokemon now being faster than hers, I was able to get off a lot more hits. And so, with a nice Flare Blitz from Cola and Aqua Tail from Tibby, I was able to finally defeat the Tinkaton. Larry was up next with his team of flying-type Pokemon. And Popsicle, with her new and improved stats, and being terrestrialized, was the perfect counter to Larry's team. I threw out Ice Spinner after Ice Spinner, and took out every Pokemon of Larry's with either 1 or 2 shots, until I finally got to his final Pokemon. I used Ice Spinner again, and Popsicle was almost able to take out the Flamigo, but died to Brave Bird. Then I sent out Richie, who also died to Brave Bird as a sacrifice, in order to use the Rock Helmet as collateral damage. And with that, I defeated Larry and moved on to Hassel. Hassel's Dragon-type Pokemon turned out to be surprisingly easy to defeat, with a combination of Ice Spinner and Play Rough with Tibby. In no time at all, he was defeated, and I moved on to the champion. And as we all know, Geeta is kind of a pushover, so I had no problem defeating her on my first attempt. I had now completed all 3 main storylines of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet with only shiny Pokemon. But there was one battle left to face. It was time to go up against Arven's Robot Dad and his Paradox Pokemon. Right from the beginning, Iron Thorns turned out to be a major problem for my team. It was faster than most of my Pokemon and had super effective moves against nearly all of them. There wasn't much I could do about this, and despite the fact that eventually Popsicle was able to take Iron Thorns out, she was quickly defeated by Iron Jugulus soon afterwards. On another attempt, I brought it much closer, bringing Professor Turo to his last Pokemon, but ultimately was defeated once again. I had to play my cards just right if I wanted to win this fight. So, on my next attempt, that's exactly what I did. I figured out which of my Pokemon were the most effective against each of his, and switched out frequently. This allowed me to land plenty of super effective attacks, and avoid plenty of his most devastating attacks in the process. I was so proud of my team. Every single member was used in this fight, and it really pushed me to the limit. I had to think ahead and be resourceful, But it all paid off in the end. After the long and hard fight, I had won. So, can you beat Pokemon Scarlet and Violet with only shiny Pokemon? Well, the answer is a little bit complicated. Outside of the starter that I released, I was able to catch and only battle with shiny Pokemon throughout all 3 of the main storylines. But after defeating Arven's dad, there's a scripted battle where you're supposed to pull out your Miraidon for the first time in battle. The Miraidon you get at the beginning of the game is shiny locked. And as part of this scripted battle, you have to send out the Miraidon. This realization was a bit disappointing, but I have to say, I felt super fulfilled in this run. I felt like I had a special bond with every single member of my shiny team. And because of that, I didn't want to give any of them away. But as a special reward for those of you who have stuck around till the very end of this video, I wanted to hunt for and catch one final shiny. And I decided to return to the same river where I caught my first shiny of the run, Tibby. I was only hunting for about an hour when all of a sudden, this happened. I couldn't believe it, a shiny Psyduck right across from the spot where I caught the first shiny of the run. I absolutely love the icy blue color of Psyduck. So I started the battle, and without any issue at all, I caught this beautiful Psyduck in a blue great ball. I decided to name her Razzie. I'll be giving Razzie away to one of you guys in about 2 weeks from the release of this video. All you have to do to be entered in for a chance to win Razzie is to mention Razzie in a comment on this video, like the video, and subscribe to the channel. And in 2 weeks' time, I'll let you know in the comments if you won. This is by far the most effort I've ever put into a YouTube video. And because of that, I'd like to ask you guys to like and subscribe even if you don't want Razzie. It's really tough starting up a new channel, but I have faith. Thank you guys for watching.